What's going on, everyone? It's Chris, and welcome back to once again another episode of Madden Maniac Previews. How's everyone doing today? Today we're going to talk about a potential Super Bowl matchup in the New Orleans Saints and the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're going to be talking about each of these teams, and of course, as I've been saying, I've been recording these ahead of time. It is right now Thursday afternoon, and as of now, many things could happen. So if I sound like I am dated, it is because it is. If there's anything that happens between now and the time that this gets uploaded, I will try to put any other thoughts in the description down below. But with that being said, let's get into this matchup. I kind of like the uniform matchup of this. It's like yellow and black versus like a goldish, like a faded out gold, I guess you could call it, black matchup. I really do. I love the idea that the Steelers are going to the Superdome. This, of course, is our second time that we're having the AFC team hosting this matchup because of the Steelers had a better record last year. We're 13-3 and lost, of course, to the Jaguars. We're the only team hosting last year that lost to a road team. So they're going to be looking for some revenge later on this year. Steelers are going to be going to Jacksonville. We'll be on Sunday Night Football. Hopefully that does not get flexed out, of course. But with all that being said, it is let's break down the Saints, shall we? Now the Saints, you go into this year, I think that they have a really good shot this year at making it to the Super Bowl. I mean, they have to. It is the twilight of Drew Brees' career. Whether he wants to admit it or not, he may want to try to go a little bit longer, and he certainly can. But once you reach the age of 40, you never know what's going to happen, and quarterbacks' careers usually fade out very quickly. We saw that with Brett Favre, we've seen that with Payton Manning, we've seen a lot of other guys. I mean, Payton Manning was even before 40. Like, all of a sudden, one year, he just started to suck badly. So, anything can happen. I mean, luckily, you have Tom Brady to idolize, I guess, right now, because he's 41, and he has shown no signs of slowing down yet. But it's always, everyone's body is different, so you gotta hope that he gets to stay around a little bit longer. But the big thing with this team is that as long as Drew Brees is healthy, they should be successful. But even if they have to rely on a backup, it may not be the end of the world, because just a few days ago, or when I say few days, for me it was yesterday, Teddy Bridgewater has been traded to the Saints and could be a good backup situation for the Saints. Especially if Teddy Bridgewater remains healthy, which he should. He's gonna be on the sideline. But if he remains healthy and he is able to go out there and play like he did this preseason, which he was very accurate with the ball, making a lot of great plays, that's going to be really good. And we saw last year how important a backup quarterback is to a team. So that's a really important acquisition for them. I think it's worth the third-round draft pick, especially if that means that he ends up becoming a starter in the future for the Saints. Let's say if Drew Brees decides to hang it up after this year. We don't know. But I do think that this team, as it stands now, can compete, and it's not just because of Drew Brees. It's because of the running back situation as well. Alvin Kamara proved that last year how good he was, and it would be interesting to see how he does without Mark Ingram to take away carries. But I assure you that he's going to end up being the starter even after Mark Ingram comes back. Like right now, I'm looking at the depth chart. Our lads has it set that Mark Ingram's going to be the number one back. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Alvin Kamara is too much of a playmaker right now to think that he's not going to be the number one back going forward. But like they did last year, once Mark Ingram comes back, you're going to see the two of them going off of one another. And it's a good matchup. It was a great running back duo then, and it'll be a good duo now. But of course, like I said, he's dealing with a suspension. So we will have to wait to see that tandem go ahead and work its magic. But you're in a good situation with the backfield. Then in the wide receiver situation, you have Michael Thomas, who is arguably one of the least talked about, truly great wide receivers in the league. And he is going to be a huge factor for this team. He's going to be lights out, and I'm super excited to see him play. Ted Ginn last year, he played a good role in as a wide receiver too. I think he's going to have some competition with Cameron Meredith as well. But those two guys are going to be a really good, solid position to take. Even though they'll take some catches away from Thomas, that it's going to overall make the team better. That they have that kind of abundance at receiver. And they also have the return of Benjamin Watson. Last time he was with this team, he was really good. And obviously he's had some injuries since then. He's gotten older, of course, but maybe if they can integrate him in well, I mean, I don't see why he couldn't be successful. They also have Josh Hill as a backup, just in case. Obviously not as good as Watson, but someone that they could use, and they've used him in the past. And then they have the offensive line, which, again, you do worry about health, and you might want to make sure. But Teron Armstead, Adaris Pete, Max Unger, Larry Warford, and Ryan Ramczyk, I think that's how you pronounce it, Ramczyk. All of them played very well last year. I mean, Warford, he was signed last year, and he ended up, I don't know if he ended up starting or not. But regardless, this is a team that was very good last year in the run game and protecting Drew Brees. That as long as they stay healthy, it's going to go a long way. And I know specifically Teron Armstead, he had to deal with being out for a little while. Or a little while. I mean, was that? Wait a minute, that might not have been last year. That might have been the year before. I don't know. Regardless, or it might have been Pete that was out. But regardless, there was a tough. They did have issues in the beginning with the offensive line, but that easily picked up steam going further in, and they were a very good group last year. And so this offense as a whole, I am extremely confident in. They're going to do very well this year. And then you have the defense right now as it stands, where you have Cameron Jordan, who is your superstar, defensive player of the year candidate last year. I think he'll play just as well. You have Sheldon Rankin, who I think still needs to prove himself, even though he's his first round draft pick in 2016, but he's entering his third year, hasn't really shown a ton, and I would like to see a little bit more from him. You have Tyler Davidson as well as the defensive tackle. Don't really know too much about him. And Alex Okafor, who is very crucial to this team. He ended up getting injured down the line for that team, and so that it's going to be really important to see him back and be part of it. And Marcus Davenport too. He did not play a lot of the preseason. Started in or was part of the preseason game in week 3. He has some growing up to do, so I think that's not growing up. Well, sure, but he has to develop a little bit more as a player. And I think that he's going to do that on the bench for a little bit, but he'll come in for a few plays, and let's see if that trading up for him is going to be worth it. It's kind of insane how much they gave up to go get him. They're the only team right now without a first-round draft pick next year because of Marcus Davenport, so he better make an impact this season, I think, to kind of maybe reassure people that you made the right choice in doing what you did. But right now, he's behind a really good defensive line, so that's fine. I think that he'll end up, if he is truly a first round draft pick, he'll make an impact this year. He'll figure it out. So then you have the linebacking group, and it includes AJ Klein, Monte Teo, and Demario Davis. Now Monte Teo last year was he hasn't been as good as when he was with the Chargers, but he played relatively all right. And Demario Davis, I loved him with the Jets. He kicked ass with the Jets, so yeah, that's a really good addition for them. And AJ Klein, of course, has been part of the team for a little bit. that he'll be a factor. Although he was also placed on IR down the stretch, so he needs to be healthy. But that linebacking core is pretty good. Not great, not like super deep, um, but there's room there for someone to come in for some dominance. I think, especially with Davis. I really like him, especially as like a leader for the team. And then you have the secondary, and of course the eyes will be on Marshawn Lattimore because he is their rookie of the year candidate, the guy that absolutely a rookie of the year winner, actually defensive rookie of the year. And he was just an amazing corner last year. And it's obviously people are gonna just talk about like the buttception that was pretty cool, but like overall he had so many times where he would take a receiver out of the game completely. And no one expected that to happen in his first year, and he truly was great. And I think he was a steal in the draft. It was surprising that he fell so far that he did, but sometimes that just happens, and it ended up working in the Saints' favor. It's another guy that I'm looking out for is of course Marcus Williams. He obviously last year the way everything ended with the Minneapolis Miracle, a lot of people criticized him. They thought that he should have just made the tackle. Looked like he kind of like avoided tackling him altogether. Maybe worried about a penalty of sorts. I don't think the guy deserves a lot of criticism. I think he might, because I think that he should have just tackled him. But I don't know. I guess, yeah, like I said, maybe like a penalty that might have been caused if he did it, but it probably would have been better than what actually ended up happening. So this team needs someone like Marcus Williams though, because he played so well down the stretch last year. It's great that this team got like two really crucial part of their secondary in the last year's draft in the first and second round. Those are value picks right there, like really good. And Marcus Williams is going to be a huge factor this year. I think he's going to have a comeback year, and show. And I shouldn't even call it a comeback year, but it's because of that what happened to him and the miracle that like everyone's going to shit on him. He's going to prove a lot of people wrong. He's going to come back greater, stronger than ever. And hopefully he won't be remembered for the flub, and he'll be remembered as a great player when it's all said and done. And they got Kurt Coleman as well. That'll be starting opposite Marcus Williams at strong safety, who's of course coming over from the rival Panthers, who was the strongest member of that secondary for a while, and so now he comes over to the Saints. Makes the Panthers a little weaker. I think will make the Saints a little bit stronger as well. And then they have Ken Crawley right now starting at left quarterback, although I think that Patrick Robinson should get a little bit of airtime at some point. I think that he's a pretty good player. At least he was with the Eagles last year, so something to look for. Of course, the one play that I think of with that was another play involving the Vikings, but what went against them, which was the interception return in which no one could bring down Patrick Robinson and everyone was missing tackles. Oh man, that was the only truly great play of that game, outside of a few great passes on the offense, but outside of that it was just all ugly for the Vikings in that one. Saints probably felt good about what happened there. But yeah, I think that this team, there are some places where I'm like in like a little bit in the cornerback situation outside of Marshawn Lattimore, like who will be quarterback number 2. I'm a little worried about linebacking. It's not great, but it will work. Is why I'm worried about. So there's some defensive signs that I'm always worried about with the Saints. But there is some reassurance in the fact that this team, for the first time in a while, had a defense that was actually doing things. It was actually successful, and they got them as deep as they did. And if it wasn't for a miraculous play, they could have actually ended up making it to the NFC Championship game. So, it ends up working in their favor. Now the Saints this year, will get to face the Eagles after all. They'll be playing in the regular season, and they'll also be dealing with the Vikings and the Rams, and that all those games between all those teams are going to be so interesting. I'm fascinated by that because I feel like none of them have really dropped off at all in the off season. So I'm really excited about all those games between that kind of level of talent. It's gonna be really really cool. And the Saints specifically, I'm curious to see. Because I feel like everyone's talking about the Rams, the Vikings, and the Eagles, but not a lot of people are talking about the Saints. They have a really good shot this year at doing something really awesome, and they have to deal with the Falcons as well. Then that we talked about last episode, how deep that roster is, and I think that the Falcons are a little bit better right now than the Saints, but the Saints could absolutely beat them, and they need to beat them in order to have a solid year, in order to make it to the playoffs, or at least in order to win the division. They need to beat the Falcons at some point. So, yeah, that's going to be super crucial. But I think about, and in the Saints also, they have to deal with the Steelers as they're playing right now. They're going to be playing the Ravens and the Bengals, and there's gonna be some issues I think that they'll be exposed with on the defensive side, but again, I really think right now that if everyone stays healthy, that's always the key to it, but as long as everything goes the way it did last year, and everyone, there's no drop off of any of the players, I think this could be a really big year for New Orleans again. So we'll see how it goes. There's something about this year that it just feels like there's so much depth on all these teams, or so much hope on all these teams. Even there's great players at all these different positions, and I think especially that in the NFC, it's kind of top heavy. But that top heaviness is not it's not the worst thing in the world, because I think about the Saints and the Falcons and the Eagles, the Vikings and the Rams, all those guys are gonna end up playing each other at some point, and it's gonna be a beautiful thing to watch. And the Packers, of course, the Packers are gonna be in the mix of that group, and so it might be really tough for any of the other NFC teams to make it, but you never know. There might be one little upset in the mix there. I certainly think the Panthers have a good shot to topple, an NFC South team, or whoever else they have in the way. The Panthers, of course, were the playoff team last year, so you never know about that. But and there are a group of other teams that could surprise, like the Lions, the Cowboys are always somehow in the mix, the Niners, so you never know. But I do think the Saints, as difficult it's going to be to play other teams, I think they are almost always going to be in equal standing with them, and they'll always be able to put up a good fight. So I'm looking forward to that. If I'm a New Orleans Saints fan, that's something to be really, really excited about. But not Sean McVay, Jesus. Sean Payton he's been a great coach for this team, and let's hope that he sticks around, because there's been rumors constantly that he's going to be going somewhere else, in a whim. But if this team keeps winning, I don't see him going anywhere. I think that he loves New Orleans way too much to do that to them. Why would you leave now when your team is finally good? Because there's been a stretch of time where it's been really hard to get over the hump, and all that. But I just don't think that I don't see him just being like, well, all right, well, the Cowboys' head coaching job is open. I'm just going to go over there because it's America's team. Yeah, I'm just gonna go over there, drop everything that's we've built here, everything that's great here. I'm just gonna go somewhere else. I don't see that happening. Something truly bad's gonna happen to this team if Sean McVay. Uh, Something has to happen that's not good in order for Sean Payton to leave. I keep on saying Sean McVay. I'm so used to talking about McVay. We can forget about Payton. I apologize. But yeah, he's stuck with New Orleans as long as they are keep up the good work that they're starting to build. This is a good team overall, and it's gonna be fun to see them play against some really solid teams later in the year. Especially a revenge game against the Vikings. I'm looking forward to that. That's gonna be a Sunday Night Football game. I don't know what part of the season it's in, but I think it's in October. That is gonna be a game to watch. It'll be really exciting to watch. If both teams are playing extraordinarily well is in that mix, then it's gonna be good. I think that there's so much hope right now for this year. There's so much excitement. There's so much that can go right for these teams. It's really cool. I haven't had I always feel like there's a good chunk of teams that are just not going to make the playoffs that you can easily point out, and it's kind of difficult to say that right now because there are a few that come to mind, but then there is some that I'm like, well, if this goes this way, and especially knowing the AFC where anyone can fucking make it, it's hard for me to count out anyone there except I almost want to count out the entirety of the AFC East except for the Patriots. But yeah, you can't though, because the last few years have been an AFC East team has made it. So it's just crazy. It's a crazy sport. It's just a really, really crazy sport. I just realized that the volume has not been on this whole time. Hold on, I'll make this change right now. There you go. Sorry about that. Just listening to white noise in the background. Apologies. And now let's talk about real quick who do I think is most likely to make the playoffs between the Saints and the Steelers. It has to be one. That's tough. This is a tough one because they're both really good. But if one can't make it, I guess this is who do I just think is the better team at the moment? I think the Steelers have the better chance of making the playoff because of the conference that they're in. So I would go with them. I don't think that the Saints don't. I think both end up making it. I think both the Saints and the Steelers do make it, but I think the Steelers have a better situation to make it because there's not as much competition. Saints have to play the Rams, the Vikings, the Eagles, and the Falcons twice. That's 5 really, really tough games. They're winnable games because the Saints are that good, but it's tough games. And that's all going to be something that they are going to have to overcome. So, but I think the Steelers have they have the edge solely because the talent that's around them is not nearly as bad, and the schedule is not nearly as bad. You face the Patriots, and then you face the Ravens twice, but then you also do play the Saints and the Falcons as well. So it'll be tough for either of them. But I just think that the AFC wise, the NFC is such a more deep conference than the AFC. You're more likely to get into the playoffs at 9-7 in the AFC. So it's as simple as that. Can we get to the second half so I can talk about the Steelers now, please? I mean, the Saints. What the good thing for the Saints is that they kind of open up on a relatively easier schedule. They start against the Bucks at home, which should be. I think it's going to be fascinating to see how the Bucks open up this season because it is going to be difficult because of we now having Jameis Winston. But they're not a bad team though. They're not like super terrible. Because I do think they have a lot of depth on the defensive side of the ball. So that might be tough for the Saints out of the gate, but they should take care of business there. And they open up 2 games at home. They go the Buccaneers and Browns both come visiting. I think they can easily go 2-0 in that stretch. But then you have to go to Atlanta and face the Falcons. That's going to be a very difficult test. But then you have the Giants, the Redskins, which I think they can easily beat. So that if anything, I could see them going 4-1. They could go 3-2, but I lean towards 4-1 or 5-0. You never know. And then they have the Ravens, the Vikings, the Rams, which is just a really difficult stretch. Then they take a break with the Bengals and then go back. Eagles, Falcons. Ugh, that's tough. Then they have an easy stretch against the Cowboys, Bucks, Panthers. Then they have to do the Steelers again, and then the Panthers again. December is not too bad. It looks like Bucks, Panthers, Saints, Steelers, Panthers. I know I praised the Panthers earlier, and they have a good team. I don't know if they're at the level that the Saints and Falcons are at. I think the Saints could beat the Panthers and sweep them potentially. I think that they're that good of a team right now. Steelers, that'll be a battle, but the Bucks easy. But yeah, no, there's just a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 week stretch that is just the annihilator. Ravens, Vikings, Rams, and Bengals is just like the little tiny hump they have to go over. And Eagles, Falcons. Luckily, 3 of those games, 3 of the 5 games are on the road. The Rams, are at home rather. Apologies. The Rams they host the Eagles, and they host the Falcons. The Vikings and the Ravens they're going to have to go to, and that's going to be really torture. Having to go to Minnesota, you have to be in that stadium again, where your playoff hopes were just ripped out of you, and a whole crowd chanting, Diggs and Keenum and all that. I mean, Diggs is going to be the only one being cheered on because Keenum's no longer there, but still. Oh shit, I didn't realize this. Oh god, I'm so sorry, Steeler fans. Okay, hold on. I didn't realize the third quarter started. Right. Anyways, I'll give extra time to the Steelers if I have enough to say about them. So let's talk about the Steelers right now. And the really big thing that happened with the Steelers this year is another holdup by Le'Veon Bell. And this is today's Sunday when you guys see this. I don't know if Le'Veon Bell is going to be back yet or not, or what's happening with him, but he needs to get back, and he needs to get back soon for this team to succeed. He's very, very important to this team, and they need to sign him soon. And if they can't, and they feel like they have to get rid of him, then they better win a Super Bowl this year, because they got to do it with him. But this could be the end of the Killer Bees as we know it. Big Ben also getting up there in age, but he's kind of changed his tune from the last few seasons, where he kind of went from wanting to retire and hang it all up to deciding, I want to stick around for a little bit longer. So he's there, and he's important to the team. Antonio Brown is your best playmaker and the most important playmaker in the league. You need him so badly. You do have depth at the position. You do have Juju Smith-Schuster there. He is important, and he's going to be a factor going forward. And I think James Washington, too, will be a factor in the future as well. But he's deep on the depth chart at the moment. That he'll be important. But you need to have Antonio Brown. No one plays the game like Antonio Brown does. So that trio needs to be there on the field from day one to the very bitter end in order to keep this team upright. It's just a simple fact of the matter. And this was last year's playoffs. I think it was the first time that all three of them were on the field. It's kind of crazy that they are still that they still ended up losing that in that first game. It's just incredible. They also have Ryan Switzer as a slot receiver, but I don't know if he might be more of a special teamer, or he might even be cut by now. They traded him to Oakland though, according to this. Now, the offensive line is pretty strong, I would say. Alejandro Villanueva, David DeCastro, Marquise Pouncey, all those guys are really strong players. Marquise Gilbert as well. All of them have been very, very, very important. And and Raymond Foster as well. I think all of them have been such a strong part of the offensive line. They've been. I think that is the same offensive line combination from last year as well. And they've done a very good job of protecting the quarterback and opening up holes for Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell's very patient with that too. Of course, we know about Le'Veon Bell's patience. So that offense is still good. You have Vance McDonald, who I think just got an extension, and Jesse James also still a tight end for the team. So this is a good group. It is still going to be a good group. What's going to be fascinating, though, is how different this offense is going to be under Randy Finchner, because he's going to take over Todd Haley, who was let go and has now since joined the Browns. So I'm curious as to see how different it is. It might not be, but it may allow, I think that the biggest storyline is from that hiring is that they're letting Big Ben go up tempo a lot more, get up to the line and snap the ball quicker instead of sitting in the huddle, discussing the play and then going. So up tempo offense is something that you're going to be seeing a lot more with the Steelers team. But outside of that, I don't know how much different the offense, the certain plays that they make, is going to be. But of course, we'll see once the season begins. My concerns with the Steelers really lie on the defensive side of the ball. Here's who I do like right now. So right now on the defensive line, you have Cameron Meredith, not Cameron Meredith, Saints guy. Cameron Hayward is the defensive end who has been playing out of his mind, who's played very well, deserves a lot more credit than he gets for the way that he's played. But on that line also there's Javon Hargrave and Stephon Tuitt. And Stephon Tuitt, he's been there, he's done well, but I just... The rest of the line I'm not like the biggest fan of. I think we could do better overall. I think that there's a lot more. They need a better pass rush overall outside of just Cameron Hayward. And then you have Bud Dupree and T.J. Watt on either side, who both of them play relatively well. But in the middle now you have Tyler Matakevich and Vince Williams, who... Vince Williams, he's done okay, but the problem with this team is they're going without Ryan Switzer, and that it's such a shame what happened to him. And you just hope that he's healthy. But football wise, you have to wonder with the Steelers why they didn't do more to replace Ryan Switzer this offseason. It just feels like they didn't do much. Maybe because they think that Switzer is going to come back, but there has to be the reality that sets in that he may not, because he's still not walking right. There is still concern about I don't know if the idea of him being paralyzed has really been ruled out yet. So I would be very concerned about that for this team. First of all, for Ryan Switzer, and I'm hoping that he does not get. He's not. What happened to him? He's a truly amazing player, but just as a person, he's been a very good. And I've seen him on talk shows. I know he did a lot with Dave Damashek on his podcast, and very funny guy, very good guy, and he plays tough, but he's never really been a terrible player. or a terrible person in that sense, and to see him get injured and hit his head when he's tackling the guy and lose to feeling his legs, and it's awful. I think that's why they implemented the helmet rule, which in that case it's for a very good reason that they did that. But it's just a shame, and you don't want to see players get their career taken away from that like that. And he's not going to be there this year, Switzer. That's been confirmed. I don't know why the Steelers didn't do more to fill that gap this year, but that's still a concern, and they should have addressed that in the offseason. Even if they drafted someone, they needed to draft someone in that role, and they didn't. It is bizarre to me that they did not. But of course, I'm just hoping that Shazier gets better. Even if that means he gets better, he never returns to a football field. That's fine, as long as he can be healthy. That's all. But that injury, I don't think they've certainly had Ryan Shazier's back, and they've certainly supported him. But in terms of the position that he leaves behind, he did not do a good job with. So I'm very skeptical about that. I'm skeptical of how, because he was a very important part of keeping big running plays from breaking out. Big part of just controlling the middle of the field, and losing that hurt them down the line big time. It was a huge part of that playoff game. They needed to find someone to fill that spot, and they just have not. So that's just the bottom line of the factor. Although I'll look at the secondary now. Joe Hayden, who played very well last year, Sean Davis and Morgan Burnett, of course, coming over from Green Bay, and Artie Burns. All of them I would like to see more growth in, but they all have talent. They're all pretty good players, but I would like to see more of. Joe Hayden has proven himself, so he just needs to keep on playing the way he has been. But I think the secondary overall for the Steelers is pretty good. I think that the Steelers took advantage the last few years of the AFC North not being very deep. But now, and I think it's very similar to some other franchises that have to go through it, they're now going to have to deal with stiff competition from the Ravens, and potentially stiff competition from the Bengals, and even from the Browns. That team is getting better. If they steal a game away from the Steelers, that's a very, very bad situation. There's an opportunity for that this week. Week 1. That's good. If that ends up happening to this Steelers squad, that's going to be very, very difficult for Steelers fans to swallow, and for the team to swallow. So they have to keep their eye out right now, and they need to have a really solid season and be prepared for the division to come after them as a whole. They have a tough schedule ahead of them in terms of the NFC South, having to face the Saints and the Falcons, as we talked about earlier. They do have to face the Patriots again, face that music. They have to face the Jaguars again, which we can't look at that situation and say that the Steelers will get their revenge. There's a chance they may not. So that's a big concern, and you have the AFC West. Luckily, is your other division opponent, your division that you have to face as a whole, and that won't be too concerning. But the Steelers are going to be tough, or the Chargers are going to be tough to face, and we've seen in the past how the Broncos have beaten the Steelers a lot, so that might be a what the fuck just happened? Someone's just lifting his leg. Sorry. That would be a difficult battle. So I do think they're a better team than the Broncos, though. I'm just kind of thinking about teams and who they've had difficulties with in the past. Steelers tend to have almost every single year a team that is much lesser than them end up beating them. They can't let that happen this year. There's a chance that could happen week 3, Monday Night Football against the Buccaneers. You can't let the Buccaneers beat you. You can't. Especially there is an urgency to this team. This might be a team on the verge of having to rebuild again because of the fact that Le'Veon Bell is going to be leaving. Your franchise running back is going to be leaving. And yes, you have James Conner behind him. There's an opportunity there, and you might have like your quarterback in the future, Mason Rudolph, but then you don't know for sure if he's going to be that guy. And Big Ben, he's not going to get any younger. You might have to rebuild this team at some point because of the fact that the foundation that you have built, that you've had this team on for a few years, that foundation, a big chunk of it is about to be taken away. If you have to franchise tag Le'Veon Bell again, I guess you could do it, but it's going to get really, really expensive. This is the last year. This is the last year that you can do this unless an extension can be figured out for Le'Veon Bell. You have to figure out a way to win this year. So that's my warning to the Steelers. Again though, this is a team that can win the whole thing, that can win the Super Bowl. It's that kind of team, but it has to go their way, and there's a lot of tough opponents that they have to overcome, and they have to win, and they have to be prepared to maybe bring in other talent if, let's say, like I said, the inside linebacker position is not holding up well. That's a big deal. So we'll see how all that goes. I stand by my statement saying that the Steelers have a better shot at making the playoffs than the Saints, because I do think that the AFC is overall still weaker than the NFC. But I think the Steelers are kind of drifting away from that number 2 spot, because everyone's like, okay, well, the Patriots are the best team in the AFC, which is true. But who's the number 2? Well, Steelers. Well, that might drift away if, let's say, the Jaguars continue to beat the Steelers and they're kicking ass this year, or if someone in division wants to battle it out. Maybe the Chargers are even better than the Steelers right now, and they'll have a chance against all those teams to say, well, we're still king. We can still kick ass. So they have a lot to prove. This team has to learn not to choke in big situations and try to make proclamations that you're going to kick their ass. Also, luckily they got rid of Mike Mitchell, so they may not have to worry about that as much. But you gotta tone down the cockiness of certain situations, and you gotta be able to focus and get this team in line and ready to go. But again, it's a good team. They just gotta prove it. And if they don't, and this is a rough year for them, and let's say they even miss the playoffs, what's the future of Mike Tomlin or the general manager too? So this is a very, very, very important year. So we'll see how all that goes for this team. But they'll be a factor. They'll be important. I don't see how they wouldn't be. They've been important. They've been a staple in competing in the playoffs or just during the regular season generally for quite some time. I don't see why they couldn't make the playoffs. It's just kicking ass in the playoffs. Gotta go all the way. Okay, what's with the so weird. This game is so weird. The more it's played, the weirder it fucking gets. My God. Yeah. Alright, I mean, that's really all I have to say about the Steelers. So I luckily made it in time. I'm sorry, it's Steelers fans. I did not dedicate my time to Steelers right away. I apologize for that. Another killer bee, by the way, Mr. Chris Boswell, who just got an extension as well. So he's going to be in the mix, of course. So, all of them are... a lot of interesting shit going on there for this team. Very good shit. It's a good team. It's a really, really, really good team. But kick ass. You got kick ass in the regular season, and you have to beat the teams that matter, especially the New England Patriots. Okay? Because we're going to talk about the Jaguars mainly, but it's the Patriots that you still have to overcome. And that's going to be the same time this season. Same week, week 15, same time slot, same channel, It's gonna be all the same location as well, at your home. Beat the fucking Patriots. You gotta do it. This team has been so frustrating to watch because they don't beat the Patriots. Beat the fucking Patriots. Like, just, it's as simple as that. I know it's not simple, but that is the one team that has constantly been torturing you. Overcome that adversity. All right, that's adversity. That's the use of the word adversity should be used for these football situations and for like injuries, not for like, oh, our head coach is suspended for, you know, hiding a domestic violence allegation, and so we must overcome adversity. No, that's shit. That's on your organization and your university. That guy should be fucking fired, by the way. Sorry, talking about something else, but I'm telling you, this is the real adversity of the NFL, where you have a team that constantly is beating you. Come back and fight back. Kick their ass. You almost did it last year. Now do it this time around. Alright, Steelers fans, get fucking pumped. Anyone wearing red, white, and blue, punch them in the face. I'm kidding. Don't do that. Be good to one another. Be good. Oh, man. I do not advocate violence at all. That's the opposite of who I am. It's not what I do. I want to punch people in the face sometimes, but I hold back, and you should do the same. Just don't do that. The Steelers get me fired up because I want them to succeed, but then they completely disappoint me because I want them to succeed for the sole reason that I don't want to see the fucking Patriots in the Super Bowl every year. And the Steelers have been the number 2 team for so long, and they disappoint every fucking year. Fucking succeed. There you go. Touchdown. My prep talk is working. Oh, we're gonna go overtime. I'm running out of things to say. Am I just gonna rant about Ohio State and the New England Patriots for the fucking rest of this episode? Come on, please. Can Saints now I'm rooting for the Saints. Saints, can we shut this down? Shut this down, please. Don't make this go to overtime, please. I beg of you. Oh. Aha! Yes! Out of the end zone. I'll take it. Oh, man. Alright. Well, that's it. That's the game. Whew. Getting fired up over here. So yeah, it's now we're moving on to our last 2 episodes. We're going to be talking about the Final 4 of last year. And will they be the Final 4 this year? Or will 1 or 2 or 3 or even 4, all 4, fall short of that, even the AFC/NFC championship? We'll see. It'll be shocking. That'd be very shocking. I think all 4 have a really good shot to make it back there. But we'll see. We'll preview them. That when I do preview them, that will be more caught up. I'm going to be filming both of those episodes on today, Sunday. When you guys get this video, I'm going to be filming them on Sunday after everything happens with cuts and all that, and I'll hopefully have everything that happened will hopefully be all caught up by then. So that would be the end, and then next thing I film after that will be the podcast. I think we're going to be filming that on Labor Day. So we'll see. That's up to Go Cubs. I'm going off of his schedule. He's very busy, as am I. But we're gonna figure it out. We got this. All right. Saints and Steelers. Looking forward to that game. I think it's gonna be a very fun game down the stretch. If everyone's healthy and they're both in the mix, it's gonna be a great Week 16 game. That should be the Saturday game, by the way. They said that they wanted it to, I guess CBS protected it, or Fox, whoever ends up owning that game, they probably protected it on Sunday. But that should be the Saturday game. Really to spotlight them. But Ravens Chargers is one of the NFL Network games that could, or one of the games that could be on Saturday on NFL Network. So I'm here for that. That'd be nice. That'd be fun. All right, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. Be good to one another. Be kind to one another, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.